as we wait to bring in our next guest, which is going to be Michal Slowinski. For those who aren't familiar, I can do a quick little bit of an introduction in recent times. He was over there working for ESL. He still works for ESL as a freelancer, but he's now shifted and changed. Oh, yeah, he's a freelancer now. What the fuck am I saying? And he basically is one of the individuals who was investigating and digging into the whole coaching bug situation. So, are you here with us, Michal?
I am. Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Now, you and I know each other quite well. We'd see each other at events all the time. Would you mind, because I just butchered it, would you mind giving everybody a little bit of oh, actually, no, that's the next part. Just a bit of an introduction about yourself and where you started and how you got into all of this.
Sure, but before we start, I just want to make it very clear that this is my first podcast and my on-camera skills are not great, as you can tell. Please give me some slack. Don't be too harsh in the comments.
Hey.
I am trying to improve in that department, and that's why I'm here, and hopefully I won't disappoint you. But
You're gonna do great.
I had to lower the expectations a bit to make myself look better. As for the introduction, my name is Michau. That is the correct way to pronounce my name.
Nailed it.
I am an esports referee with a main focus on Counter-Strike. I have been doing this for the last 10 years. That's obviously including 1.6 tournaments at the start. I would consider myself as one of the most experienced CSGO admins in the scene.
You're the best. Hold up a second. You know, I know that when on broadcast we talk about Graham Messieso Pitt, but the best of the business, ladies and gentlemen, is this man that we have on screen right now. There is nobody else that I would want to be involved in the events that I'm involved in, adjudicating, and because I am behind the scenes, seeing all the bullshit go down when shit's on fire, and there's decisions that need to be made. This man right here has a very strong moral compass, and that is one of the things that you 100% need when doing this line of work. And Michal holds himself I've seen it, a very high regard when it comes to doing this. Now, anyway, get back to your intro. Sorry for interrupting.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, what else? I'm a freelancer. I'm not employed by ESL, although I do work with them a lot since they obviously take a third chunk of the CSGO calendar. But I also work with DreamHack. I work with Blast, Beyond the Summit, and some other TOs. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is that enough for you? Or
that's perfect. That's perfect. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to dig a little bit into the whole coaching bug situation straight away, because we may as well. This has been the talk of the town for the better part of 2 weeks now. There was obviously the rumors and murmurs about stuff coming. We were just talking to Taz, and we were talking about like Lord, obviously, with the tweets. Now, the bug being discovered, you've alluded to, or you've said that this has been a known bug for a longer time. Why now did you decide to look into it, and what kind of pricked your interest, or what started all of this really?
I mean, okay, so let's just get it clear that there was we had a similar bug back in 2016 or 17, but the way it was activated was completely different. Back then, we at ESL reported it to Valve, and it was fixed. So we had no idea that this is still a thing in 2020. We heard some rumors back in May from Rejin, for example. We heard some rumors in June, but the first actual report, ironically, came from HUNDEN, and that was during CS Summit. He was never clear on how to reproduce this bug, but he did suggest some ways on how to make sure this bug is not abused. Because obviously you had to, the coaches had to connect first to the server, and so all it took was for admins to connect before them, or simply to ask coaches to reconnect right before starting the match. So yeah, as I said, we had no idea that this bug is still a thing between 2017 and 2020. It just came up now because two coaches decided to step forward and report it.
Okay, so with it getting reported, or at least like publicized, this is something that you took on yourself to look into. Do you think if this didn't happen, if you didn't look into it, do you think we would have just been ignorant to the abuse of it, and we would have all just moved on with our lives?
I mean, it's a hard question. I think the reason why I looked into it is because at some point I started getting flashbacks from all of the online events that I did, and I realized that this coach, for example, keeps connecting all the time first to the server, and that became suspicious to me. Right? And I was like, I literally started getting some flashbacks. Oh, this guy does the same, and so that's why I decided to to look into it. I initially never expected for anyone to abuse it. I thought, like, since Rejin and HUNDEN reported it, it's like obviously they only found out about this like a month ago, 2 months ago, and they are reporting this to get this fixed. So my main concern was to get this fixed as soon as possible. I tried myself to figure out a way to reproduce this bug, because without it, you can't really report something to Valve and expect like a proper answer. We needed Valve to fix it as soon as possible, because it could have been abused in the future. And as soon as someone made it public, I expected more and more people to start abusing it in the future.
Okay, all right. Well, hopefully people have stopped now using it. That would be it doesn't exist anymore.
Hasn't it been fixed now?
Yeah. Yes. So this instance of the book has been fixed. Unfortunately, I think there might be more. I think there might be like 2 more different instances that we are looking into right now. So that's great. It's actually even more of an advantage. So let's hope.
Lovely.
Let's hope it's not too bad.
Coaching bug?
Yes, it is also regarding the coaching feature bug, and it offers similar possibilities, different activations. Obviously, I think it's more random. Unfortunately, we didn't get a way to reproduce it yet, and but we did find some weird suspicious demos where people get a third person view of certain player, so you can rotate around the player, for example, and that's obviously quite an advantage.
Yeah, a little bit.
But I mean, as far as I understand, though, this is it is quite easy to find out who's done it. Like, let's say every tournament organizer does it after a tournament. It's actually not that much work to do at this point anymore, right?
No, it's not. Obviously there have been some scripts made, some demo passes made available that basically give you ticks or round times where a coach isn't spectating a player. And then you can obviously do the visual check and get everything that you need to potentially ban a player. But it's still a lot of visual checks that you need to do, because you have to remember that a coach might not be spectating a player because, for example, there is nobody alive, and at that point the camera switches to the bomb that has been defused, for example, right? So it's still a lot of false negatives that you have to go through, and there is, for example, timeouts. There are technical issues, backups. All of that causes a lot of false negatives that you need to go through. So it's not as simple as you pass a demo and then you get a list of 10 incidents where someone cheated. It's unfortunately a lot of false negatives and a lot of boring stuff that you have to go through before you actually get to a proper abuse.
So how much does it take you to, like, when you find you obviously send a demo into a program, you get some of these like potentials. How much does it take to review one demo, like, visually, right?
I mean, if there is nothing there, like there is no abuse, then it's like 5 minutes, I would say. That's because it takes a while to load a demo. It takes a while to switch to a different round. It takes a while to go back if you have to. And I mean, if you do have to go back, it's usually results in a game crash and you have to start over.
But we all know.
So obviously it's I think I would say about 5 minutes. If it's if there is an abuse, then obviously I'm trying to watch the whole demo just to understand the amount of abuse. Is he rotating the camera every round? Is he rotating only at the start? That sort of stuff, right? So then I have to watch the whole demo, and I don't do it in 400% speed. I do it in normal speed. It's just to get the full understanding of the situation.
So let's just go back just a little bit here, because there might be some people who are tuning in who aren't too familiar with what happened. So the bug, it was made public. Then there was discussion around it. Then you've decided to look into this. So go from that point. Like, how did you go? I'm gonna check this. Like obviously, you and Steve were involved in going through a lot of the demos here and finding out the information we all have today. But yeah, give us a rundown of how it all kicked off.
I mean, when Rejin and Hunden reported this to me, again, that was during CS Summit, end of June, start of July. It wasn't actually made public back then. It was, nobody knew about it. I think Lord only announced it like a month and a half later. But at that point, it wasn't. We didn't plan on doing an investigation. It was simply we're trying to simply reproduce the bug so we can report it to Valve and get it fixed. As I said, obviously you can't simply go to Valve and say there is this coaching bug, and this coaching bug allows you to see certain parts of the map. If you send one of those emails, you probably wouldn't even get a response. So what we tried to do is obviously try to figure out exactly how it works and understand it, being able to reproduce it, and then go to Valve and basically do all of most of the work for them so they can patch it. But as I said, while we were waiting for Valve's response, I started getting those flashbacks, and at that point, we thought it might be a good idea to just go through some demos of the suspects that I had, and that's when we moved on to a research process. So initially, I simply went through random demos of some of the matches that I did. Just to review those suspects, and one of those suspects was Dastan from VP, who is a very punctual guy, and that's why he came up. Fair play to him; he's always on time. But obviously, that became suspicious to me, and that's why I went through some of the VP demos, and I realized that Hard Legion guy is cheating, right? I was looking for Dastan, and then the Hard Legion guy came up. So as soon as the first guy came up, and it was a third place decider for Road to Rio, I was like, this must happen more often than just one match. But that's where Steve came in, because he's he's a developer. He's a great developer. He's one of the best developers I know, and he's a great friend. And I reached out to him for help. And he suggested that, well, I had an idea to create like a script to go through server logs to basically show us instances of when the coaches join in the coach slot before anyone else connects. But unfortunately, that didn't narrow down the search too much, because as you can imagine, coaches are usually the first ones to connect anyway. Players are usually, the last ones. So they usually connect 5 minutes before match start. So it didn't really narrow the search, but Steve kept thinking, and he's very good at his job. So, and he has a lot of CS experience. So he came up with a demo parser that essentially allows us to scan demos automatically. You can do like a batch of demos, and at that point we were able to go through more demos than just 10 per day or whatever it was, right? When that happened, when Steve finally figured out how to do it, we started the investigation. We started going through all of the ESL and DreamHack events at first, because these were the events that I worked at, and I personally was hoping not to catch anyone in one of my matches, obviously. But yeah, and then we moved on to CS Summit, Blast, Flashpoint, all of the Tier 1 events. I think that's most of the research process, I guess.
So how did you go? Did you just keep it between the two of you? Did you try and bring any TOs into it? Did you let them know that you were doing this?
Okay, so obviously as soon as we found the first person abusing it, we contacted Valve. That was the first thing we did. We provided all the evidence. Actually, they asked for all the evidence, so we responded and gave them all that they needed, because it wasn't as simple as us sending us out, this guy cheated in this match and this match. They did ask for some evidence, and we obviously kept all of the TOs that were involved in these matches. So that's ESL, DreamHack, CS Summit informed as well. As soon as we found the first guy, but I think people. Because I've been saying that I've been doing this for the past month or so. We didn't find the first person until 2 weeks after the investigation started. So it might look like we kept it a secret for a month, but we didn't. We just didn't find the first abuser until it was super late. the public found out about it. I think max week and a half after we found about the first abuser.
Okay. All right. So that's a pretty quick turnaround time right there. Striker Prof, you have any questions about the process? Get into this point.
I want to maybe ask about, because the Hunden thing is something that a lot of people talked about, especially when it was announced, because they literally just won ESL 1 Cologne a day before that, not even a day, maybe like 12 hours or something like that. So at that point, did Hunden already, did he know he was caught? Did he already admit at that point? What was the kind of thing I was just curious of, was he aware that he was going to get banned literally the next day or something?
No, he wasn't aware. ESL were aware of his incident, and Valve were aware as well. I think I informed them on Wednesday or Thursday, a week before that. So, but obviously ESL wanted to consult it with ESIC, with DreamHack, and all of the other parties. And unfortunately, the timing was that he just won ESL on Cologne, and the day after he was banned. But he had no clue this was coming. No.
Yeah. Look, the fallout of this, right? I guess this is where we could probably move into the next subheading, to do with the reactions that you've received or throughout the community. The Hunden scenario going down in the way that it did obviously tarnishes. From people who don't look into it, what happened at Cologne. But he didn't cheat in Cologne, right?
No, he did not. 100%.
So there you go, everybody, from the fucking horse's mouth. So this situation that has cropped up, if you want to be salty at these guys for cheating at any point, right, you should be, because we spoke about this on last week's episode before the news had even dropped. The idea of cheating and using the exploit in a way to give yourself an advantage, it is morally corrupt in the pursuit of competition. There's no two ways about that. You can't really even deny it. You can say, oh, it was a bug, and whatever. You can take it from whatever angle that you want, but as you break it down to the black and white nature, the wrong thing to do. It's like speeding in your car, right? You're speeding in your car, it's probably not the worst thing, but if you get caught speeding in your car, you're still going to get a motherfucking fine, right? So I just said speeding's not bad. Don't speed. Why did I say that? Be responsible. I'm not endorsing speeding. Anyway, so the reactions, Michal, from the community, at least towards you, mainly positive, right?
Oh yeah. Look, the community support in this has been overwhelming. I mean, we received thousands of positive messages from random people. We received a lot of praise from colleagues, players, talent. On top of that, you and Stunner created a GoFund page, for which I'm very, very grateful.
We still got to hit that goal. So people, bring up the link, Lucas, just so everyone can see it at home. But yeah, head over to this GoFundMe, donate to Michal and Steve. Steve doesn't want the money, so we'll work something out. We'll give it to a charity, whatever. Anyway, back to your point. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to make it clear as well that we honestly never expected to make any money out of this. We're prepared to lose some money to make this all work, because we had to buy some servers to process all the data. But yeah, I mean, for us, it was never about money. And I myself only really cared about some credit from the TOs, as you probably know, which we did receive in the end. On top of that, Foreign and Flashpoint reached out and rewarded us. Beyond the Summit guys did the same. ESL wants to give us some reward as well, and and we have a GoFund page, so it's incredible. Obviously, we did have some negative messages as well too, but I don't want to focus on this too much. There are some stupid people everywhere, and that's just life. I don't pay too much attention to those comments. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't scare me. So it's just they are there, and that's it.
Yeah, very mature way of looking at that whole situation there. But I want to continue with the reactions just a little bit, Strike. I want to pivot to you for a moment. So you said you have an article coming out this afternoon laying it all out, but the way that this is genuinely across the board been looked at by the community, do you think there's been any crazy overreactions? Do you think that people are pretty much bang on?
To a degree, I do think that there's been an overreaction, just because, as we were saying before, people are doubting results that were already confirmed not to be interfered with this bug, namely Cologne and other tier 1 events that have already been gone through in that period. As far as we know, from tier 1 events, at least in 2020, and Michal, you can maybe confirm this, tier 1 events in 2020, the cases are done, correct?
Correct, yes.
So we're only talking about like tier 2 in 2020 and then a historic use in before. Okay, so just to explain that. That's something that I do think the community has overreacted to, just because, to be fair, it's not that many matches that have been affected, considering the volume of matches that we've actually had in the past couple of months. People have only received punishments or have been kind of like absolutely caught. It's something like 20 matches or maybe less out of like hundreds and hundreds of matches. So it's not like the entire scene has been cheated or anything. It's not like every tournament is completely bogus because of this coaching bug. It's still like relatively here and there individual matches that have been affected, or maybe like a tier 2 tournament here and there. So from that point of view, yes, there's been an overreaction.
So I want to kind of pivot into, I'm going to say it wrong. Is it the ECIS or is it the ES?
I think they call it
ESIC.
ESIC. I should know it. I should. I've spoken to Mr. Ian Smith on a bus to Katowice one time. So anyway, ESIC. That's
obviously an expert on the topic now.
Yeah. Well, look, he's a very dedicated man to his job. So maybe we'll get him on the show one day. Actually, that's a great idea. I'm going to try and work that out. But let's stick with this right now. I just praised my own idea. I'm such a cunt.
I love
it. So I wanted to. I had a thought. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, the ESIC stuff. Now they released a statement saying that there was like a confession period, right, Michal? Now, obviously, since then, a few coaches have come out and confessed. Do you expect us to see more?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of coaches have obviously tried to take the narrative and they went public with it. But I think the other ones, all the other coaches are basically trying to keep it within ESIC for now. And I think ESIC is going to try and release the whole list all at once, which I think makes sense, because otherwise we would cover, every front page with negative news every single day until the confession period is over. There are so many. But yeah, I mean, I still expect quite a few to come out.
Okay, so with that in mind, that makes me immediately think that there is going to be a larger fallout from all of this. And what we can do is dial into these punishments that have already been thrown out. Prof, it was 6 months for Dead, 1 year for Hunden, and 2 years for Zona.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously ESL are having to react on something that never existed before, so we don't want to judge too harshly, or maybe we're not judging harshly enough. What do you think of those punishments initially?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week right on the show. We kind of knew something was going to happen, didn't really know what or how big it was going to be. So I just randomly threw like a year maybe as like something to start off from. And I think that, like, me originally, I was just thinking if someone's going to use it, it's going to use it once. And I didn't really think about the or maybe not, I don't know. I didn't really even think about how many times someone is going to use it and how much that actually makes it worse. Because if it happens once and then you use it at that time, you're kind of maybe not aware, you're caught up, like, what is this? I'm looking around, okay. But then if you do it multiple times, and especially if you plan to use it, so you purposefully join first and go into coach and then position yourself in a position like top mid on Mirage, which is not, I guess, where you spawn initially when you do it, then that is much worse. So I think for someone like Hard Legion's coach that only got, for me, 2 years is not enough. If you cheated in so many matches on purpose, like for me, like I would be fine with like a permaban, literally, or at least 5 years for that kind of a thing. And then you go into maybe Dead 6 months. I guess that's like kind of okay. Maybe Hunden's year is not even enough because he got
11 rounds, or 10 rounds,
but also in the Home Sweet Home Cup also. Which they won over Spirit, which is kind of when they were building up to become like a top 20 team, Spirit was, I think, on the edge as well. So that meant a lot, not only from the money perspective, but from the invites perspective, because you win that one match, you go over Spirit, and when EPL or whatever is around the corner, then you get the invite, and that means like it means a lot in these like second-hand effects of a win, not really just one win, right? So I don't know. I think maybe even too lenient, but at the same time, isn't it ESIC more the organization in charge of actually doing the punishment? Like they are the guys that are gonna sit down at a table and think about it, and the ESL is gonna say like whatever you guys say, we'll accept that with their own. I guess they give their own feedback, but ESIC is kind of making the judgments, right?
I don't know, Michal. Do you know more on that?
I think that's the case, but in the case of those three people, it already happened, right? I think they already sat down and already discussed those penalties. So these penalties did come from ESIC. That's at least as far as I know.
Yep, yeah. That is absolutely true. Those three have been. I don't want to say copied over, because I'm sure ESL made those punishments based on E6 feedback or the other way around, whatever it is. But in any way, yeah, those three bans are not just for ESL and DreamHack, it's for all the other organizers that are partnered with ESIC. I don't exactly know what the list is. I know it's Blast as well. I know it's Eden Marina as well. I forgot who else is. We play. There you go.
UCC as well.
There you go. So that's a bunch of more organizers for whom this ban applies for the same exact length. So 6, 12, 24 months.
A good example for people that maybe don't remember, when Steel and the guys got unbanned after 2 years, it was by ESIC, and then all of the tournament organizers that were like ESIC partners then also unbanned them, just like following their guidelines. I think the only tournament organizers that didn't was Faceit, right? They weren't. I think they weren't allowed to play like ECS and stuff like that. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but from that's kind of my.
Somebody did take a longer time. I do remember that. I don't remember who it was.
Yeah, I think it was Faceit. Actually, it was Faceit. Yeah.
Okay, I remember stuff.
We don't have to worry about them anymore. So that's all right. They're not on the table in this discussion at the moment. We have Flashpoint now. So I assume that they're going to probably. Are they with ESIC?
No, they're not.
Okay, maybe in the future.
But you did say that they're cleared, right?
The Flashpoint events were clear, but I think what Chad was talking about is to potentially transfer the ban from ESIC to Flashpoint. Got it.
There's a little bit of an overlap there, right? At some point, as far as I'm aware. But the thing is with this, the thing that becomes dangerous with a lot of the narrative that I've seen people tweeting about is, of course the players knew. It's such a dangerous rabbit hole to even go for that hunt, right? If you're gonna start that discourse, you are now talking about shit that you cannot plausibly prove without like communication being looked through, right? And I don't know if TeamSpeak is recorded with all these tournaments or whichever way they decide to do voice comms. They're probably on their private ones. I don't know if they have to use the tournament organizers TeamSpeak or whatever. So there might be cases where it was used and we literally have no idea, or you have to translate it from Russian or all of this stuff. And it's like, unless we have a checks and balances in place to provably do that, what you're doing is you're
just starting a witch hunt, basically, based on nothing.
And as much as maybe you're right, maybe you are right, maybe the players did know, but you can't
the
prove
thing is,
it.
you can't know. You just simply can't know. It's going to be very, very hard to prove in most cases, unless you have like all the communications. Like, for example, Gary provided, at least, that's what it seems like. Unless you have that for like every single match, and you can provably see that he, passed on information or something like that. That okay, I can see this position or something. Like you just can't know if the players knew unless they come forward themselves. That's
actually a good pivot point right there. The whole Gary situation. Where do we compare that in this scenario? Does he get banned? Like what happens here? Is he cleared of it? Like how are we looking at this? Anyone?
Well, I think what Guerri provided is, it obviously helps clear out the players potentially. But there are some talking points about his video, and one of those is he's saying he minimized the game, and obviously that's why the game is lagging, the models are lagging, and all that. And I mean, it could be true, but there is a world in which he minimizes the game while it's on the window mode. And it's the same effect essentially, right? The models are still lagging, and yet he can still see the whole screen, right? He doesn't have to rotate the camera because the view he has is perfect. So I obviously don't want to accuse him of anything, and
but where's the burden of proof on this though? Like, does this, let's say,
that's a good point. Yeah,
that's my biggest concern, right? Because there's obviously doubt that he saw any information that he could have passed on to the team, and especially like if you can see the comms, obviously they're in the same room, so there's a potential that a player was right next to his PC and he still saw the game, right? There's obviously all these possibilities, but where's the actual burden of proof? Do we just ban everybody who's caught using it for long enough? Do we take these things into consideration and say that there's what is it called, plausible deniability? But I don't know what the actual terminology is. I don't remember. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's what ESIC is for, right? I mean, that it's for them to establish. But I mean, isn't that what we did with that Hard Legion guy and Hunden? He's stuck in this bug, and he didn't try to fix it, and that's what we essentially banned him for, because there is no proof that he used it anyway. In the same way, there is no proof that Guerri used it, right? I mean, so we banned him just for the possibility that he could have cheated, essentially.
But is this appeal that changes that in any way?
I don't know. Again, that's for ESIC to establish. If it was up to me, I don't think it would matter, just because it's just not enough proof. I mean, he had the chance to disconnect. He did it earlier in the other match, and as far as I'm concerned, unfortunately, I think that's just not enough. What he provided is not enough. For someone, if someone was able to provide like a CCTV camera from their room, maybe that would be enough. But it's just not enough.
Okay,
that is the thing, right? And I think that this is where it will have to be a little bit more black and white. And that's why if we had to look at every different situation that's happened, everybody who's used it has exploited it in different ways, right? If you've used it over multiple different games and series, that is premeditated.
Yeah.
Right? That is a premeditated decision to exploit something that is now available. To use it and have it happen a couple of times, right? For it to happen and to be a bug in your face, and you go, oh shit, I have this, and then you either use it or you don't use it, right? Whatever, we're never going to be able to know exactly how that pans on out. You start to go, okay, well, they should have taken themselves out of this situation, right? You should have taken themselves out of this situation. That's the first thing they should have done, is 100% take themselves out of the situation. The fact that they didn't take them out of the situation is, I don't want to say it's enough to say that they're a horrible person and they cheated and they did all these things, but it's enough to indicate that they broke at least the sanctity of competition that I would hold. Now, I don't know how everybody feels about that. Everyone has different versions of the way they look at things.
I definitely agree with that line of thinking, just because obviously if you get stuck in it once without having encountered it before, and even if you stay in it for the rest of the match, I think that's very different compared to when it happens to you the second time, third time, fourth time, when you realize when you provably know what the bug is, especially if you know how to fix it, and you still stay in it. Then yes, then that's definitely not necessarily premeditated, but at that point you already have the knowledge you need to get out of it, right? So
you know better at that point.
Yeah, that's why I think a lot of the decisions that ESIC make are going to be critical, and it's important also for the community to understand the differences between all of these cases. Just because someone used it doesn't mean they should be banned for life and ostracized from the community, that they can't come back. There are some cases which are smaller and bigger, just offenses towards the integrity. So we really need also ESIC to do a good job on doing
diligence
and due diligence, but also deciding these penalties so they don't come off as when we see them. If we see something that doesn't make sense to the community, that will look bad on them and the decision made, and then everyone will say like, oh, I don't trust what they did, blah blah. Like, it is important for their rulings to have like, how do I say it? They must be accepted as like the right thing. So I hope they do a good job. But the only thing that remains is just the player aspect, and I feel like it has been maybe too easily just put aside, especially for teams. Let's say Heroic allegedly had a TeamSpeak recording, and they internally checked it, and yeah, that's like, it's clear nothing was passed on. So if something like that was like, if that recording was passed on to ESIC, it doesn't have to go public, really doesn't. And if ESIC can confirm that from that recording there is nothing that implies that the players knew, I feel like that is a much stronger case than just saying like, yeah, we checked it ourselves. We, the team that was involved in this cheating aspect, checked it. Nothing to see.
Why did they even
but they
say
wouldn't
that?
come out. But they wouldn't come out without having like passed it on to ESIC. I don't think. I think they just said that like, because
but
they
ESIC
didn't
say anything. So I don't know.
Well,
if they got it or
there
not.
are still things to there. I'm sure there are still investigations going on from their side, and they don't want to comment on every single individual case, every single individual piece of evidence that they've received. I think they're just going to come out with certain punishments every whatever period it was. I think every month or whatever they announced they would do it in, and that's it. I don't think they're going to comment on details like that. So I feel like there's no way Heroic would have said that without knowing that ESIC would come and just ask for that recording, right? So I think that would be very stupid on their part.
Let's just look at the Dead case. You can't really say, oh, he would never do that because it's obvious people check it, because Dead essentially did that. He literally clipped a part of the demo which didn't show anything and said like, oh, I did this, I called the timeout, when literally before that he was using the bug. So I'm not going to presume anything from anyone in this.
But they would get called out on it. So I feel like they wouldn't have done it, or if they did, they'd be caught. So
did Deadpan stay at 6 months, or did it get made longer?
No. It's just stayed at 6 months, but beyond the summit went out with their own to the next two events.
But that's the thing. Like, ESIC could technically, with the new home cup information for Hunden, they could maybe extend that ban. I don't see why that couldn't. Is that right, Michal?
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen, right? I think ESIC is obviously trying to gather as much information as possible to release like one big statement at the end of the month. Obviously, there is the confession period as well on top of that. So
that's till the 31st of September, right?
No, 13th.
13th. Okay, 13th hold up.
Is when the confession period is over. Yes.
Real soon.
In a week. Yeah.
In a week. Yeah. So I think we can expect some sort of statement from them at the end of the confession period. I hope so, because there is obviously there are a lot of doubts regarding certain coaches, certain teams. I think teams themselves are getting a lot of negative messages that they potentially cheated and all of that. I think Sonic was one of the people that contacted me. I was like, when are you guys releasing something? Because I'm currently getting bombarded with messages from fans claiming that I cheated. I think it would really help the scene if we had some sort of statement as soon as possible to clear some names out and to basically stop the witch hunt of some of these coaches that already admitted to abuse, to this bug abuse.
Okay, so let's start pivoting the conversation now, because a lot of this stuff we could go around and forever. There's so much to dive into with this, but let's now talk about what effects this may have in the future. Now, I want to throw one your way here, Striker.
Okay.
Valve haven't said anything. They've obviously patched the bug, or have patched the bug we knew about. Do you think that the knee-jerk reaction with Valve's track record may be just to pull the plug on coaching altogether from the current environment? Because I want to remind everybody that at the start of all this, Valve gave everybody the option of not having coaches online. Remember? Everybody remember this? And everyone lost their fucking mind. Now, I'm not saying Valve knew that this was going to happen, but in hindsight, maybe we wouldn't be in this mess.
I don't think, especially because I don't want to say responsibility on Valve, because obviously someone had to report it to them. They're not going to come across this on their own. It's going to be very difficult without somebody coming to them first. So I don't want to call it a responsibility that they had, but obviously their code is at fault for this. So I don't think they would come out with punishments for something that they did wrong, right? So essentially, that's what it is. They just created a bug that is basically at fault at the origin anyway. So I feel like they would be, I don't know what to call it, but it would be pretty weird if they ended up just pulling the plug on coaches altogether based on something that they did wrong.
That's actually a very good way of looking at it. I think I see a lot of people. I saw like an Alu tweet, and I was like, "What?" I was like scratching my head, and I've seen like people. The Oscar one. That I think I offended Oscar with that. I'm sorry, Oscar. I wasn't trying to. He
was in the chat earlier. He was trying to tilt you again, I think.
Oh, was he? I'm sorry. Yeah. I wasn't upset with Oscar. I just I think that the narrative at the moment is very doom and gloom from people, and I genuinely think that we're still in a good place. We just need to present things a little bit more positively and change the way we discourse, not only with each other, but with the TOs and Valve. But the point that you've just made is fantastic, because a lot of people have been trying to compare this with like the match throwing from the iBuyPower days. And people are trying to be like, oh, I saw an Alu tweet. It was like, he didn't say that Yampy cheated. He just said that Yampy had a VAC banned account from when he was 14 and he can't play majors. The way that you've just prefaced that is they're probably not comparable, because to first of all cheat is a third-party program, and to throw a match is a premeditated idea to win money by intentionally losing. The using of the bug, obviously, from a competitive integrity standpoint, is still very, very bad. But I can see from that from the game developer perspective, how they kind of have to own a little bit of the bullshit. And luckily, they don't run anything other than the majors. So that this stuff can be handled by the companies who are involved. So I didn't actually think of it that way until you've posted that. So that's a good little thought to have about that right there. But this has trickle down effects, right, Prof? Like just the way that it's being looked at, and some of the ways that I was just alluding to. People are painting this like it's the end of Counter-Strike, like our whole fucking world's burning down. What do you think?
I mean, I've been also annoyed. Like, I saw a tweet from Nel. We all know the famous French leaker and journalist. He said something like, online CS was always bullshit, and now it doesn't make any sense anymore, something like that. Paraphrasing.
Sorry, just had to get that out.
But yeah, my point was essentially what even Striker was saying. I think like 0.2% of matches or even less were affected by this, and just because.
Well, it needs to be said that as far as we know right now, I'm sure. Like it's gonna be more, but I don't think it's gonna be like a massive percentage at least.
I mean, logically, the closer we are to this moment, more people knew about it. What I want to say, most of the usage should be in the most recent times, because the more people know about it, the more they can use it, and then it spreads. So I don't know exactly how it spreads, or what. Maybe everyone just comes on it randomly. But the more you play, the more chances you have to come upon it randomly and then figure out how it happens, right? So I feel like most of the cases are going to be the more recent times, but of course there are going to be older cases as well, as we already found out, right? But yeah, my point is like everyone that lost an online match in the last 5 years is going to be like, I knew someone was cheating. Like it's probably not the case. Even if people did cheat in general, it's probably not the case that you're stuck in like tier 70 because people are cheating online because of this bug and the whole integrity of the game is lost. And then people are like, especially like random commenters, but there was also the smoke bug that people used and the radar bug. And like, these are not even comparable things that everyone knew about, like on the top level at least, and were not even that big of a difference maker. Like you saw the radar, you saw the blip, but okay, it's kind of shit, shouldn't be used, but it was in the game. It happened to everyone.
And it was in control of the players in the server as well.
And then people say, but Big used the bug in Katowice and Krakow. Like, that is also not comparable. Like, everyone saw what was going on. It happened for like 3 games, and that's it. Didn't really affect the whole circuit for years.
Yeah, look, it obviously got them further than they probably would have otherwise, and watching them laugh while doing it on the cameras has disgusted the fuck out of me, and really, really, really got under my skin. And
to be fair, though, it's like it's in the same category as Fnatic's
all-off boost.
The all-off boost, exactly, because that tilted a lot, me included, to be fair, at the time. But as I think about it back, it's just difficult to judge these things and negatively, just because they just found something in the game that they took advantage of, right? That nobody else knows about, and it's only about the line. Where do you see this as cheating? Where do you not? And I feel like that's something that people need to think about.
That's true.
Talking about interesting stuff, Starix called Flush a cheater and then joined Hard Legion. That's the biggest irony ever.
I'm not talking about Starix on this show.
I fucking love it.
He's on the list. He's not we're not talking about Starix on this show. Fuck that noise. Where was I going with this? Michal, in terms of the effects of things that have happened in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, the all-off boost resulted then in, if anybody finds a boost and they think it's on the line, they should tell the TO, show the TO will keep it confidential, and then they can use it in the tournament, right? If it's been given the thumbs up. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and then in terms of the bug thing that happened with Big, if anybody's exploiting anything like that, the ownership and responsibility is in the same way. They show the TO. If the TO goes, no, that's obviously fucking illegal, then they're not allowed to use it, right? It's a similar kind of vein?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so in terms of this new one with the coaching, do you think this has the same trickle effect, or do you think it has even a bigger trickle effect than the last two that I mentioned, that now people, if they're encountering things that are even a little bit grey, that the idea is come forward, right? Fucking tell us about this shit. Do you think that's what's going to happen?
I mean, that was the idea after Krakow, right? I think that should have been the idea after Krakow. I mean, I can't see how anyone would think that this coaching bug is allowed, would be allowed. I think it's obviously important for all the players and teams to step forward in the future if they notice something similar, because at the end of the day, if they did report, if Peter reported this to the TO back then and I was the admin, then we would have obviously taken care of it back in 2018, and we wouldn't have this shit show now. So I think it's important. I think I already discussed this with ESL as well, for some of the TOs to open like a communication channel where all the players and teams could report these bugs in confidentiality, so that we can actually take care of it, because obviously ESL has better contacts to Valve than any other random person on Twitter.
Even players,
even
though
right.
They probably don't want to admit that, or
but again,
kind of
I
feel
think
it
Peter going through Twitter maybe is not the best thing, right? He could have went through email just to confirm. For example, the way I reported this bug, I did it through the team CS:GO team feedback at valvesoftware.com. I used the email address that they provided in one of the updates, right? Update notes. And somehow I did get a reply. So imagine if ESL, who is obviously in contact with them 24/7, if they email them with a game-breaking bug, it gets fixed within like a week. And I think that's why ESL or all of the TOs, I mean ESL is the biggest one obviously, they should open some sort of communication channel where players and teams can report these things, and then ESL can take it from there.
I think what you've just said here is something which I have tried to publicly say many times before, and it's also the way that we have discourses on things, right? Like our world as Counter-Strike people exists in like 3 places. I have 3 websites open pretty much all the time when I'm on my phone or I'm doing work. HLTV.org, the fucking CSGO Reddit, and Twitter, right? I'm checking Twitter to see like the pulse. I'm checking Reddit to see what you crazy motherfuckers out there are coming up with. And I'm going on HLTV.org to read all the horrible, horrible abuse about me that you guys love to say. I'm joking.
We also do some articles that have like stats. I don't know if you found out about those.
Oh, shit. That might really help my job. Fuck. I'm not a sports mode user anymore, guys. At least you got that much. So the thing
I think
is,
we got a new title for you actually, not Danger Zone streamer anymore.
oh yeah, what does it say now? I can't see it. My computer's still frozen.
Props. Well, this says Danger Zone streamer from like 3 shows ago.
Okay. Oh, not a sports mode user can be the future
Prof used to have not a sports mode user. I think we can use that title for you now.
All right, nice. So my point here is that the onus is not only on the TOs, not only on the players, not only on the community. It's on everything as an entire entity, right? We need to fix the way that we communicate in everything that we do, right? People sit there screaming and yelling and making these negative tweets and blaming Valve for this and blaming Valve for that, and I can understand the frustration. I have sat there and I've listened to my colleagues and players and people and the constant negative vibe that comes out of that. And I've probably already been on this spiel on this show a million fucking times, but I'm going to go on it again. The reason that Counter-Strike will be the best and longest lasting esport ever is because of one thing, is because of that community. This game was built as a mod, right? And I read you guys like, I want my 128 tick servers, and I want my fucking this, and I want my fucking that, and they're not doing enough, and I want another operation, and Valve fucking sucks. No, they don't fucking suck. This is what we were built on. We were built on a mod. That mod was then made better by the community who made maps, and then we came up with formats that was by the community. Let's fast forward a little bit. Let's go to CSGO. We have, compared to our direct competitor now of Valorant, the ability for people who are artists and love the way that an AK-47 can look when they do their beautiful design. And then that gets in the game. And then those people can now make money from our beautiful game. And we have mappers who can get involved in operations, and they can have their creativity and their design of how they want to use the playground of CSGO to make something that you at home can enjoy. And then they can make some money. And then you have Faceit, and then you have ESL, and you have ESEA, and you have Pop Flash, and you have all these other things which build businesses, because there's a group of you out there who really enjoy playing a competitive variation of Counter-Strike. They've been able to create businesses and make money. So not only now is Gabe shoveling billions upon billions of dollars into his swimming pool, you have all these other people. You have the players, you have the competitors, you have the people like me who are broadcasters, you have journalists, you have YouTube, you have Michal, you have photographers, you have an entire ecosystem and an entire world that is not in the hands of just Valve. We, the Counter-Strike community, have been able to flourish and become what we are today because of the hands-off nature of Valve. Would we want some more communication, a better way to talk to our friends over there and chat to them? Do we want Gabe to come to our event like he does for Dota? Sure, we would love all of those things. Well, maybe.
It has flip-flops, I mean...
Yeah, but like my point here is, let's just try, instead of hating on what they have done, actually look at the positive for what they have done. Look at what they have created. Look what they have allowed us, right? We're their kids. They have given us enough rope. You've been able to go out the front of your house. You've been able to go down the shops on your own. You've been able to do all of these things. They haven't locked you inside a fucking prison. They haven't kept you indoors and just gone, these are the ideas, this is the format, this is the bullshit. We have an open circuit, which has allowed Counter-Strike players from all over the world, from no matter what country they're from. You have cunts from Australia now who are able to compete against other people in the world. The Mongols, when they beat us at the minor, mate, I saw them at the next minor. Those motherfuckers rocked up bling to shit. Their entourage was so deep because they'd won a minor. What Counter-Strike offers that none of this other bullshit will ever offer. It will never offer it. It doesn't have the history. It doesn't have the lineage. It doesn't have the community vibe that we have. Other people come in and steal our shit because it's so motherfucking good, right? So our game is great. And I don't want to hear about it being shit. Do we want improvements? Yeah, let's come up with good ideas to get improvements. Let's come up with good ideas to communicate those things. All right, now let's talk about how Michal was an admin and shit for a little while, and then we'll turn off the show.
Just to add to what you said, I have one more thing. You know, I was in contact with Valve about this coaching book for a while now, and I still have a reason to believe that they are doing their own investigation too. So people should stop freaking out, because obviously it takes time for them to make a decision. But you know, they did contact me 2 days ago, and they did ask for an update about the cases and all that. So I mean, I have reasons to believe they are looking into it, and we just obviously they need more time than TOs, but also they are not looking at single you know, all of the ESL Pro League matches. They are looking at all the other matches too. So so that's why it's probably taken a little bit more time.
I'd also be just surprised if there were no repercussions to the teams who used it in the RMR events for sure. That obviously directly concerns Valve and the major circuit, and they have shown in the past that they will not stop at just some bans, even for entire teams, as we saw with Kaylee and Titan just before the DreamHack winner. So I feel like there's no way there's not going to be any repercussions for people like that is hard to say. It's obviously one round in each, so it's obviously a relatively small amount, but there are others who used it for more, as we saw. So it would just be difficult to see Valve not doing anything about it.
Yeah. I need to ask Lucas a question. Lucas, it is 5 on the nose, mate. I know you have more work that Martin is forcing you to do. How much longer do we have? Just go? Okay. So Michal, I wouldn't mind diving a little bit into the basic, your job, right? A lot of people probably aren't too familiar. I know you can't give away too many details, especially on the way that certain things run. TOs obviously try and keep that stuff quite close to their chest. But just a general, like an everyday for you at an event, like, can you give us a quick little run through of what kind of work you're doing?
Yeah, sure. Although I do hate talking about my about that part, since it's so different for every single game, for every single tournament. So obviously the main task of a referee is to ensure that the rules of the game are followed, right? And that might sound simple, but obviously there is much more to this. For example, we are the guys who are creating the actual rule book, for example, right, or at least contribute to it. On top of that, we obviously oversee all of the competitions. So right now, I'm one of the admins for ESL Pro League, and obviously that involves helping with scheduling, match administration, and all of that stuff. I'm sitting on the server as well, being the main contact person for the teams. During the events, offline events, we obviously work with IT as well, and the anti-cheat guys department, that's Steve, to essentially create an environment where it's not possible to cheat. Even though some people might disagree that. But
people are cheating online.
Yeah, I mean, some people claim it's still possible. Anyway, there is obviously much more to this, and it's just a basic description. As I said, it differs between every single TO. Unfortunately, some of them make us do some play management work as well, some travel management, booking taxis for teams as well. So
I can tell everybody that's not ESL.
That's not ESL. Correct.
That's not ESL.
That's correct.
Just before I see the angry tweets, because I know how this works.
No, I mean, obviously some TOs operate with a lower budget than ESL, and then that's just normal. At some point in the past with ESL, that was also referee's job. Now they moved away from that, and they have their own. They create a new position, play management, who take care of that stuff.
It's fine. You can go. Look,
how you're super professional and then it just slipped out. What can you do?
Now, I think that is almost the perfect segue to talk about some of your best and worst experiences on the job. You probably don't want to name any names of players, or maybe you do. Maybe you do.
Nah.
Well, there's a couple, mate. There's a couple we could slam. I know there is. We could light some shit on fire, couldn't we? But
saving that for the autobiography, I guess.
I'm waiting till I'm retiring from this next year and going coaching before I really blow everything up. So we'll wait and see. But I'm saying that in jest. Everybody relax. I don't know what I'm doing next year. It's only fucking September. They don't give me the calendar until January 1st. Anyway, let's have a look here. So some of your best experiences, right? Like what have what are highlights of your time doing this, other than meeting me?
Other than meeting you, I think obviously this job has taken me to a lot of different places around the world, and this was always my dream to travel. I've been to US, I've been to Brazil, China, Australia, everywhere, right? And that's big. That's big for me, because trust me, it was always my dream. My family, none of them were in US ever, so I'm the first one, and everyone is proud, super proud. So I think obviously traveling is a big, it's a big advantage of this job. It's something I will always cherish. Obviously I met a lot of good people as well along the way, and Chad, some other people, Michael, Steve, people that I work with. you have to understand that most of the people that work in esports, they do it out of passion. So they are very passionate people, and obviously that means they're great friends as well, right? These would be my best experiences. Most experience, I've had people shouting to my face. I've had players push me out the way, even. But in general, this job comes with a lot of stress involved. A lot. And people don't realize, but there is a lot of stress involved. And I did have several situations in the past where I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I think Sydney was one of those. Sydney? Yeah, I think Sydney was one of those where I traveled from Leicester after a month of Leicester to Sydney, from Sydney back to
Dallas?
Pro League?
Back to Europe and then to Dallas, right?
Yeah, something like that. I was like I couldn't take it anymore, right? So, and it's not just being tired, but on top of that, every day having that stress, the admins are the main point of contact for the players. So if the production is fucking up, they come to me, not to production, to complain about it. If player management are, having some issues, they come to me as well. And, I'm the main person for them. And even though I don't really have much influence on some of the things, they still come to me and complain. And, that causes a lot of stress.
I'll apologize for maybe some death segments that we ran a little bit over, so the games were late. That's our bad. Anyway, Prof, where are you going?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, before the show started, I actually told Taz the story of my first interaction with him, which was at Counterpit, it was not a great event. It wasn't greatly run. And then on the second day, they were I knew the guys, and they were like, if people want to help out, maybe you can use some people admins in the booths. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do that. I came in a bit earlier that day, and they said, if you want, you can go in. I went in, and Virtus.pro came into the booth, started setting up, and Taz was playing DM. It was, 110 FPS. He wasn't happy. Let's just say he wasn't happy. He made that pretty clear to everyone that was in the booth. And I was just like, I'm not paid to do this. I didn't sign anything. Fuck this shit. I'm not gonna do this. I just that's it. So I understand completely the stress, and that's just one small incident, which isn't anything big. And I guess ESL doesn't have FPS issue. I mean, they probably do, because players like to complain about it, even though you have the best PC possible, I guess. Is that still a thing?
I mean, yeah, because some people, set the way they set up the Counter-Strike. For example, they disabled the multi-core rendering in CS settings, and that means you're not running on all the cores, yes. Right? And it's how is that our fault?
That's we actually had a local LAN in Croatia that was delayed for an hour because a guy lost his config, and we had everyone, literally the whole community, went to his PC trying to figure out why is this lagging? It really wasn't working. And then we found multi-core rendering off. It's what the fuck is this shit?
I think Michal could probably tell you just how bad with PCs Counter-Strike players are, right, Michal?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, really.
For people who spend so much time,
I could probably count 5 players from the whole scene that actually know what they are doing when they come to an event. 5 out of those, let's say, hundreds.
Oh dear.
It's weird.
For how much time they spent behind the PC, right?
We come from this generation where literally we had to download our own games, crack them, and do all of this shit. Use random software to get everything running. Just figure out even how to download something. You needed to download something else to then patch up zip files to play Worms 64, whatever the shit was.
Remember having to crack Warcraft 3?
Yeah, and then trying to play it online, and then it wasn't working. Then you found pirate servers and everything like that. We come from that generation where I can't understand how these guys don't know anything, but it's just it is like that, I guess.
It is what it is. All right, we're quickly running out of time here, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll go through these last two quickly. Michal, do you think with your job that it would be better for you to have more power? I guess as a freelancer, that's shifted now, right?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily for the freelancers to have more power, but for the admins in charge. So, whether that is a full-time employee or not, we definitely should have more power. But I don't think it's really about the power. It's more about defining proper penalties that players and teams would actually be afraid of. Because, top players, they don't really care about prize money deductions. I mean, really, they really don't care. So I think it's important to start introducing some other penalties, and whether that is losing a timeout potentially, kicking out coaches for a certain period of time, forfeiting maps, losing advantage in the vetoes, stuff like that. I think we should explore it, because it's just the current method is just not working out. And I can give you an example actually of how pathetic these penalties are. It's actually something I brought with ESL the other day, and it's something that keeps happening more often more recently. So we have some players that disconnect during the match, during an online match, for whatever reason. Maybe there is a technical pause, maybe there is a technical problem, maybe not. But what they do is they forget which side they are on, and they end up joining the enemy's team after reconnecting, right?
Forget.
Yeah, I mean, forget. Anyway, do you know what the penalty for that is? It's one minor penalty, which is 1% of the prize money winnings. And is it worth it? Is it worth losing $1,000 to potentially know what enemy's economy is? Yeah, I mean, 100%. So long story short, I think we really need to start looking into some better penalties, some that actually would penalize players and teams in a proper way, just like E-League did back in the days.
Sure. Okay.
What did E-League do differently?
I mean, I think with E-League, I remember when teams were not on the chairs 1 minute before the match, they would literally start the match without them on the server, right? And I'm not saying that that's the right thing, but if it happens once or twice, people will start respecting the rule, right? You don't need to do it every single time, but as soon as the first few incidents are caught, it just stops. Players will start being on time.
What about this though, right? Like, obviously, for those people who aren't familiar with E-League, Minsik was the guy over there who was the whatever his title was. I don't know. Minsik's been doing this for a long time, but
commissioner.
That's the one. What about this as a form of punishment? Like, in my mind, the biggest tool, and it almost sounds horrible because I know the feeling of this, but the biggest tool to keep people accountable is the physical knowledge, is the public knowledge. There's so much stuff that happens that never gets spoken about publicly, and people get away with absolutely disgusting behavior, whether it be a comment that was made to somebody or whether it be something which is maybe an accident, but something that is breaking a rule, like Michal was just saying, of rejoining and learning a lot in that situation. If these things were made more public and put more front and center of people fucking up, they'd be less likely to fuck up, right? Like, maybe that's the wrong way of going about it. Maybe
we all hate like the pitchforks and all of that happens, but it has its positives. It just keeps people accountable in front of the community, right? And a lot of these people that are very respected by the community are the same guys that actually do this shit. And even in the MIBR case, we talked about them a lot this year, about different transgressions. But one of the things that we could go and verify was literally the Cologne incident in 2017, I think, when in a technical pause they were discussing tactics and writing, and even people, when they got caught, and there was an article that they got caught, we didn't run it on HLTV, I only found it like on somewhere. People still said, "Oh, it wasn't true. No, that was bullshit. They weren't talking anything." And then you could see in the clip that literally on stream, they literally recorded a screen where you could literally see what was typed, and you could translate that, and it was about the tactic, literally the name of the tactic and how they want to do it. So that was literally what was necessary for people to believe that happened, because it's MIBR, they would never do it, right? Yeah. So yeah, I agree completely that just publicizing would be a great idea.
But then again, it brings a lot of negativity, right?
Yeah,
every day to the world. And on the other side, as I said, if you had to forfeit them for that one incident during the final, just one map, trust me, nobody will do it again. They will know what the consequences are, and they will just be afraid. That's the problem. Yeah. They're not afraid right now.
But here's where the problem lies, right? And this is one that everybody at home is going to have a hard time resonating with. But even though ESL, Flashpoint, ECS, Blast, whatever. It's a name. You see that name, they do something bad. ESL bad, Blast bad, bad, rah, 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 fuck them, da, da, da. Once again, everything in life, these are actually human beings. And there are people on the other end who have to read those things. And the perception has changed with TOs the last 3 or 4 years. It was going from like they run their event, you guys come to their event, you play their event, shit's fucked. Like I remember ESL 1 Cologne 2015 where I fucking smashed Titan, yeah, fucking owned them. The table legitimately was they just put laminate over the top of the table, but the table underneath, if you pulled the laminate off, was like bumpy and had nails and staples and all that kind of shit in it. So as you'd run your mouse across it, we're all gamers, we know that it has to be smooth. That shit ain't smooth, right? Like we were in I know exactly the studio we were in.
MMC.
That's the one, and it wasn't good, but that's how things used to be back then. Like for example, my team got put in a completely different hotel than all the other teams. I guess because we were the odd ones out, right? I think we were staying with like people playing different games. Things were different back then. But then once the community, once the players and teams got to a point where they were the bigger, they had the influence with their brand and their name. Well, then it changed from the TO not being able to get away from things, but them getting to decide how shit goes down. And this probably goes into something you were talking about there, Michal, with the punishments, you not thinking being harsh enough, is that before the teams had the power to like crucify a TO, right? Here's one for everybody playing at home. Back at a Dallas Pro League event, there was an ad running for a skin thing or some fucking thing inside it. It was a Pro League one. And on that was pretty sure Cold Zero and Fallen. And Fallen, in his great wisdom, makes a tweet saying to ESL, you don't have the right to use my image and advertise this. This is the gist of it, right? Like I don't have verbatim, so someone's gonna have to dig through the fucking archives, but I guarantee you this happened because it made me just as mad then as it makes me now. And have a go at a TO for doing that. Well, guess what? It was fucking SK, the team that owned them at the time, who sold that things for them and their advertisement, right? And then instead of like thinking, they put them on blast publicly. So back then, the players could do whatever they wanted to manipulate public perception of the TOs. The TOs now, in the last couple of years, do everything they can to keep the players happy. Like I have seen the way that they get treated with player management, the food that they get, and they should. They work very hard. They're very good at their craft. But the trade-off hasn't swung back. The player appreciation for the TO is not there. The TO appreciation for the player exists. It is not on the other foot. And the reason that you probably see them saying things about some tournaments, not other tournaments, is because the contracts that their ownership has signed with certain tournaments. Like you can't say this or you do actually get fined a shitload of money. I think with some of the TOs, they haven't swung that fucking pendulum back far enough yet to, instead of using the carrot to incentivize the players to be there, they need to bring back out that fucking stick. Because that stick now is no longer just in the hands of the players to influence what they want. We need to start playing fair for everybody. Because if we're going to look at the direction of Counter-Strike and where we're going, we need to look at this as what it is. It is a profession now. It's so established. There's no question mark about that. But we need to realize that we're all in this together, right? I'm not trying to sound like fucking Disney movie or some shit.
I mean, the thing people can think about from like a different perspective is, of course, if we find a player or a team, people will be upset because they're a fan of that player or a team or whatever. But think about it from this way. Like if you were working in this industry as an admin, as a player manager, as someone like behind the scenes that doesn't have a big following or whatever. So you can't really go out and tweet like, some player just told me to fuck off. And even though I was literally asking him to do what he is supposed to do and I'm doing my job. Or stuff like that is happening all the time. Like, do you want that to be like the norm? Do you want, if you are working for someone else, to treat you like that, right? So I'm not saying that I have a lot of experiences like this. Me personally, not even working for a TO, so it's not the same thing. But I know that stuff happens behind the scenes and that people are not happy with particular players or teams or whatever. And sooner or later, that is also gonna probably come out in one way or the other.
I'm honest, I'm surprised that more stuff earlier in the year when we had some dramas going down didn't come out, because some of the things that I've like secondhand heard that players have said to like player managers and stuff, I'm like, holy shit. It's like if that was the real world and that happened in like an office environment, it's like you don't have your job anymore, bro. Like look, I don't want to dive too far down this rabbit hole because this is the kind of stuff which really frustrates me and we don't have much time. So let's try and leave this on a note without me going to dinner angry. We had playtime for Michal here. Were there any questions that came through for him that were of interest?
I had one.
Yeah?
Just in terms of admins having more power. Obviously, there's this balance of following the rule book and having your own mind, using common sense to solve certain situations. Where are you on that line?
I mean, I think I was very vocal about the round restore rule, for example, right, on Twitter, where obviously the rule says one thing, but I decide to use some common sense here because I know what the intention of the rule was. So I think it's very important to understand what the rule actually says, what the intention of the rule is, and then obviously apply some common sense because let's face it, the rule book isn't perfect. It needs updating every single month, let's say, right? Things change, circumstances change, updates come up and stuff. So we need to be flexible, and we need to obviously we should follow the rule book as much as we can. But if something doesn't sound right, you need to apply common sense, and I think it's really important.
I have a question on that though. Like with you, obviously, very knowledgeable guy, been doing this for pretty long. I think people understand that when you make a ruling, it makes sense. Do you think that we have enough admins that are capable of doing that, or in a way?
Whoa!
Well, I mean, let's be serious. Like at some of these events, like maybe like a smaller event, or maybe at some events where they don't have such experienced admins, like someone that maybe came from another game or is doing like his second CS tournament, or he's just been maybe promoted from a lower, just like a player manager position. Like, would you give that the same responsibility to that person as you would give to Michal, right? So do you think that is a part of the problem?
I mean, it definitely is, but I can understand that concern, and I think it's just we don't have enough admins in general, not just enough experienced admins. If we were to have an event next week, for example, I don't think we'd be able to get 5 admins for that gig anymore. I think most of them moved on because it's just not something you can do full time. And with COVID, obviously, there is even less work, and they all had to go and find full-time job. I'm not even joking. My team of admins, the 10 admins that I had, trained and worked with every single event, only 2 of them are still trying to make this all work, right? So obviously the problem is bigger. That there needs to be more opportunities for admins, and we need to be able to make this a full-time job, just like I did. But it's just we could talk about it like for another 40 minutes. But long story short, I do agree with the concern that some admins might not be experienced enough, might not understand what the intention of the rule was when it was created. I do, because I created that rule, and it was it is faulty now. I see it, and we just simply need to change it to add some more flexibility.
The way that I view the admin position, and obviously it gets a little bit more swirly because there's a lot of different TOs. But if I was like a TO, this is the man, ladies and gentlemen, who I'd be hiring to adjudicate my shit. And not only that, I would want to make sure that he has his team, right? Like they hire, like you want that to be something. And also, if the League Ops team fucks up and you have him as a freelancer, guess who the fucking fault is on, right? Like the liability would shift in that regard. So I think that I know all the people that you were talking about in your team, and I remember seeing them over all those different events. And for some people, like doing League Ops, like you said, is just a thing that they do because they're so in love with esports and the game and whatever. But only the people at the top of their game can hang around, right? Like you need to be working a lot, or you need to be at the top. And this is also a stepping stone into esports. People want to transition to different roles and do other things. It's something that doesn't get enough love. I know it doesn't get enough love, Michal, because we have spoken about lots of problems with it in the past before, but it is the barrier that we have between the rules, clearly by what you've done over the last 2 months of your life. It's the barrier between people doing the right and the wrong thing, and having the backbone that is necessary to enforce the game to be played the way that it should be played, and without things being broken and taken advantage of. So I hope in the future that it can get the love it needs. It can get the spotlight it requires, because you look at things like the UFC, for example. I know it's different because it's two people literally beating the shit out of each other and someone could die, but there's like bad referee calls. It's the same with football. There's like a bad call on like a red card or I'm not going to pretend like I know sports. But there's like bad calls that get made, and the referees are the people who get pointed to, right? Like there's a level of liability right there. At the moment, it's like ESL, blast, whatever, there's a wall. You don't see the people behind that wall. Anyway, I'm on a tangent again. Where are we at?
I want to just, I think we're kind of closing off the show, right? There's a question, obviously. Have you or any of your colleagues ever been bribed? Like that's the, I just
no.
Has anybody attempted?
Never tried it. No, nobody ever tried it. No.
Oh,
I think I brought you some cheesecake to back there once upon a time.
Did you?
Yeah, I think so. I was in New York.
Remember that? New York?
People don't care about your shit.
Oh wait, maybe you were a talent. No?
Yeah, no, I'm bribing.
Oh, okay.
I'm bribing you so you keep helping.
I
me
thought
with
you
the
were
rules,
talking
man.
about as when you were a player.
No.
Yeah, I think we can just close it off. I think a question and a topic that we'll still be talking about in the future is other forms of like cheating and abuse. You touched on joining the wrong team to see like potentially see the economy and other things. People online have been doing the classic checking out the HLTV scoreboard or checking out the stream as well. Are these things that like you are concerned with now? Can you do anything about it, or are there other things that you kind of want to crack down on moving forward?
I mean, with what you said, the stream sniping and stuff like that, there is an easy solution, right? Just add 5 minutes of delay to stream. In theory, it's not that easy because I understand there is more technicality behind it. But it's just what's necessary, and I think we TOs need to do it. I think some TOs already did it. I remember DreamHack doing it for one of their events, I think, or CS Summit as well. CS Summit.
Blast also had like a big
exactly.
time.
We just need everyone to move to that 5 minutes delay, and then there is no longer, a random technical pause to wait 120 seconds to see if they boat or if they saved, right? Stuff like that. So it is a problem. It is a problem, but there is an easy solution to it. As for any other abuse, not that I can think of anything online. Obviously, offline there is always going to be a topic of audience involvement, but it's another again long story, and it's something we could talk about for ages.
Just one thing about that. Do you think we will get to a point where players cannot see or hear audience at all?
Well, I hope so. Okay. I hope so. Maybe not. They definitely can see it. I think they definitely can see it. It's. I know it's shitty. It is, but I think it's necessary if you want to stop some random accusations and stuff like that. But I think for starters, it will be very helpful, and I did pitch it several times for coaches to stop touching players at all. Because players they sometimes they don't even see the audience because the cameras and everything is blocking the view, but coaches have a perfect view of the audience. If they wanted to play someone in the audience, they could do it, and they could gather some info and then potentially tap someone on the shoulder. So I think it's if I was in charge, I would probably just not allow coaches to do any sort of taps on or any sort of communication with the players, at least during the round. And that would be a good start. Obviously, to completely reduce all potential possibilities, you would have to go with some sort of booths. And I know people don't like them. I understand why people don't like them. But I think it's the necessary step forward.
All right. We might leave it there, lads. We're half an hour over, which was expected. We already planned for it. We knew we were going to be running a little bit late today because we were doing the multiple guests. We were doing all those bibs and bobs and jibbly wibblies and bits and pieces. So what I want to first of all do is say thank you, Michal. You were fantastic. I don't think you have anything to worry about when it comes to jumping on a podcast or jumping in front of a camera talking. You did a great job. So thank you.
Thank you.
And it's been great work that you've done for everybody. And once again, I'm just going to plug the GoFundMe if you want to donate to Michal and Steve for the hard work and effort that they put in helping unravel all of this and do a great service for the community. Striker and Prof, you guys cool?
Yeah.
It's kind of hot in
cool.
this room.
Yeah. If you're just one thing, I'm just going to repeat what I said at the start of the start of the show. Some at some point later today, my article about this whole coaching bug use and who was involved, who in what way, how they've been bad, and all of that stuff is going to be played out pretty concisely in an article later today. So if you're a little bit lost in all the drama and all the negative news that have been coming out in the last week or so, you can just check that out. It's going to be updated as new information comes in. So yeah,
Perfect.
That's it.
Perfect. That'd be great. That'd be good. Stay on top of that topic, ladies and gentlemen. You know where to go, HLTV.org. Now, we have a show every Monday. We're doing it every Monday while I'm trapped here in Cologne. I love it here in Cologne. This place rocks. Rocks. How old am I? Holy shit. Anyway, we are closing down the show, episode 6. We had 2 big guests, Taz and Michal. Obviously, I don't know why I would say that there's a rerun at 8, because if you're watching it now, maybe you missed the start of the show. Maybe you want to watch the start of the show. We're going to do a rerun at 8 p.m. tonight.
I might be in the chat. Oh, actually, no, I have a beer. So fuck, I won't be in the chat. I was in chat last week, rewatching with the guys. Kind of fun.
All right.
It was cool. Yeah, people ask me questions and I explain like what I said and why I said it and stuff like that.
While you were talking on the stream and people are like, what the fuck is going on?
It says rerun at the bottom. So.
Interactive experience. So if you guys want to find the audio of our podcast, you like to listen to it in the car or in the shower or before you go to bed, you don't want to look at our faces, that's understandable too. Anchor.fm/HLTV. We have HLTV Confirmed on Twitter. You can find us there. Striker, myself, and Prof. I think we're all in there somewhere. But yeah, next week, Monday the 14th?
We have a guest, right?
Yes, Monday the 14th. We have a guest already booked in. And I would love for you guys to tune in for this one.
I feel like we can't even say who it is.
We can't?
I think we can.
Oh, we can? You want? Well, I know he's a man of grandeur.
Because yeah, okay.
So maybe...
Let's just leave it like that.
Let's leave it for now. And that episode... I can guarantee you some shit's gonna get said where it's gonna be some fun stuff. So come in, tune in next Monday, 3 p.m. same time, same place, all the same shit that's been going on. Thank you again for tuning on in, and we're gonna close this one down. Thank you, Lucas, for letting us run a little bit late today. That was very, very nice of you. And I don't have any more life advice to give you right now, guys. I need to go out into the world and find some more. So good night, sleep tight. It's the afternoon. Have some good dinner. I don't know. Peace.